We're back on the show floor here at Moscone Center. It's a fancy food show. It happens twice a year. This is the winter show in San Francisco, and then there's another one in the summer in June in New York City. So around me are 16,000 people, all industry people. There's about 1,600 exhibitors. There's 200,000 products. We're trying to make our way through all of them, and also let you know what the future of food is all about. And with me is Erik from the Food Nest. And when I talk about the future of food, I mean, you're right in it with innovation, with startups. Tell us a little bit about the Food Nest and what you're doing.
Absolutely. So we're a food accelerator and venture fund based here locally in San Francisco. Our focus is really taking the early stage companies at about $500,000 in revenue and really grooming them up to grow into that next level of funding. So in the $2 to $3 million run rate, attracting investors as well as additional retailers to grow their businesses.
So what kind of products do you have in your incubator now?
So we just launched, we're taking our first cohort, we're accepting applications, but our primary focus is around health, wellness, and nutrition focused companies that are using high amount of nutrient density in the products that they're building and focusing on really changing the food supply as we move forward.
So when you find these companies and you decide you want to help them, what do you look for?
Typically we're looking for a founder or a team of founders that's really passionate about what they're doing. They're very interested in getting the right people around them to help them grow, and somebody that really knows what they don't know. They know that they need help. They know that they don't have all the connections. They know that they've gotten maybe their businesses to a point, and they really need outside help, both capital as well as expertise in the marketplace to help them get to those next levels of growth.
So what are the categories of products that have you most excited right now?
Yeah.
Not just the people you work with,
Sure.
but in general as you go down these aisles.
Yeah, so I think really, a couple key categories that we're really excited about is snacking and snacks. Especially where the companies are using root-based ingredients, root-based flours, not just to steer away from the gluten-free or with the gluten-free trend, but really, again, back to nutrient density. Beverage is always one that's very interesting as well.
So kombucha is still hot?
Kombuchas are hot. We've seen some companies with probiotic teas and probiotic tea waters that are actually not carbonated or lightly carbonated. So from an occasion and usage perspective, definitely very interesting to us. We've seen a company that's using basil seeds as kind of the next chia in a drinkable format, which is very interesting. Really looking at those nutrient-dense ingredients, how they're used, familiar from a format perspective. And then we also take technology companies that are food-focused, that are really about disrupting the way that business is done.
So give me some examples of those.
Sure. So I think a company most recently that's had some pretty good traction is RangeMe, where they've taken kind of a traditional model, is very hands-on, very pound-the-pavement approach to selling, and they've created a marketplace where buyers can kind of go in at their leisure, shop, if you will, on what's interesting, or if there's a hot category that their senior VP tells them, you need to look at this. Right. It's at their fingertips, and they're not having to boil the ocean to actually find something.
Yeah, so it's like what Bloomberg did for Wall Street, 20, 30 years ago.
Absolutely.
Now we're starting to see that.
Yeah.
Now, when you talk to retailers, what are retailers looking for today?
Yeah, the interesting thing, one of the pieces we're doing is we're bringing retailers in earlier in the process, right? Rather than having Erik create a drink that he loves and packaging he's just, so passionate about, but it may be the wrong size. It may not have the right shelf proposition and sales proposition, and so bringing the retailers in earlier, giving them access to early innovation and having them have influence in what it is before it gets put in front of them with a sales sheet and a sample that they can actually craft it, and they can be earlier on, maybe even accelerating their own innovation pipelines because it does take up a lot of them a long time to actually develop new products. So they really like that access.
And I would assume that from a retailer standpoint, if they've had input early on, it's really likely that they're going to take the product on and get behind it and promote it.
Well, interestingly enough, not only that, and not only are they able to say, hey, maybe I want to actually make some of this private label and create a bigger category, they've even shared interest in investing in these companies. and getting more behind it, even
Sure.
financially, which is very interesting.
And I think we're seeing that more, certainly with CPG companies, with their incubator programs and retailers that are doing it and so on. So it appears to me that what we're seeing is a transformation of more collaboration than maybe we've ever seen in food before.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the key things that we're really trying to do is bring the parties together earlier in the process so that we have a higher success rate of those companies, right?
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, they're more informed decisions. We've all grown and started companies and made expensive mistakes in certain situations and less costly ones and otherwise. But our focus is really getting the right teams around the table. One, so that there's earlier access for investors, and they can actually monitor and almost get qualified deal flow. As well as the retailers have earlier access and be able to put those items on their shelf faster because they had access.
So what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from you is certainly we're seeing more startups that are taking more outside money. Mm-hmm. The old model 30, 40, 50 years ago is, I made some money, now I'm going to go off and keep my fingers crossed that it makes it. If you had to compare the success ratio of, let's say, 30, 40 years ago, that model, to what we're seeing today, is it about the same? What's different?
I think that the competitive set has gotten so much, more. There's just so much more out there now with the focus on entrepreneurship, especially in the food space. A lot of the focus on sustainable food. So you have a lot more competition, if you will, vying for the same capital, right?
Sure.
But what we've heard from a lot of the investors is that there's equity that they haven't deployed yet because they don't have that qualified deal flow. There's deal flow, but it's not necessarily what they're looking for. But we're also seeing some of those same investors drop down from what their traditional criteria was to invest earlier because they believe they're paying too much of these companies later term. Right. So, I think the success rate, percentage-wise, probably hasn't changed that much. There's more deals being done because there's more dollars out there.
Right. So, as an entrepreneur who wants to get into the food business, they look at all these deals, Hampton Creek, they look at Instacart that are raising, big bucks.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for them?
Slow down, right? It's like, yes, those are the anomalies. Yes, they have a different proposition that they put around the table and what their overall experience is, whether it's underlined by data and technology, or if it's just a solid product that's looking at an alternative protein that has a lot of science and scientists behind it. We really try and curl it back to, what are you doing this for? At the end of the day, if you're taking outside money, this is what it means. Are you ready for that?
Right.
And really go through a calibration process with them on, okay, your company's at this stage, you want it to be at this stage, there's a variety of ways to get there, but if you go left, this is what it really means. Are you ready, willing, and able to do that? And some of it, for us, it's like even qualifying our deal flow, right? Because we have deal flow too coming in, and some companies have come to us and, I don't want to say we talk them out of it, but to some degree it's like the help and the network that we've created, they've already surpassed some of that, and they may need a different level of support getting to that next level. And so we've got some great partners, whether it's private equity and evergreen funds and others that are surrounding us because they want access as well, where we're pushing some of those companies off to get them to that next level faster than having to go through our 5 to 8 month process.
So Erik, I don't know how much you've been able to walk around this morning, but anything that you saw that you went, wow, I wish I was part of that?
One of the companies, and I actually was exposed to them earlier than this show, but I was finally able to taste the product today, is Zen Basil. Using basil seeds, for all the antioxidants and fiber and whatnot. Haven't seen anything else like it. Branding is, on point. They've done a lot of work around the story behind it, and definitely could see that as a bigger category than one SKU and one product line. We're seeing cassava root come up a lot as well, especially in the snacking area. Chips and other snackable type items is pretty impressive as well, but I've only touched the surface of the show. Absolutely.
There's an awful lot here. So Erik, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. So we're going to take a quick break, then we're going to come back and we're going to go for a little over an hour, interview after interview after interview, and in between that we're going to put up some of our B-roll of what we found on the show floor. So far we've had some products that haven't made it to market yet. Then we've got a lot about cheese. Cheese is one of the biggest categories here at the Fancy Food Show. So stay tuned, stay with us right here on Facebook Live.